The city was alive with the sound of traffic, the rushing of footsteps, the noise of people trying to survive another day. In the middle of this busy city stood a tall glass building that touched the clouds. Everyone who passed by looked at it with respect, fear, and sometimes even envy. This was the headquarters of one of the richest and most powerful businessmen in the country, Mr. Richard Gray. Richard Gray was not just a rich man. He was a billionaire who controlled industries, companies, and thousands of employees. People said his voice alone could decide someone's future. If he spoke kindly, a man could rise. If he spoke harshly, a man could lose everything. His rules were strict, his standards were high, and his temper was feared. Inside his company, no one dared to laugh too loud, no one dared to relax, and no one dared to disobey his orders. Employees walked with stiff backs, spoke carefully, and worked endlessly because they knew one mistake could cost them their job. Mr. Gray's presence was like a shadow hanging over them. Even when he was not around, people whispered in fear, wondering if he might appear suddenly, but the one who feared him most was not an employee. It was his own daughter, Emily Gray. Emily was young, kind-hearted, and soft-spoken. Unlike her father, she believed in kindness and helping others. But growing up in her father's house had taught her one lesson very well: never make him angry. She had seen how he reacted when things did not go his way. His voice would rise, his eyes would turn sharp, and his decisions were final. Emily respected her father, but deep inside, she sometimes wished he was different. She wished he could smile more, listen more, and understand that not everything in life was about money or power. Still, she kept these thoughts hidden, because she knew that speaking them out loud could only bring trouble. On one particular morning, something unusual was about to happen, something that would change the way Emily and everyone else in the company saw her father. Something unexpected, something no one could ever imagine. The day began like any other. The tall building was filled with the sound of typing, the ringing of phones, and the quiet movements of people trying to impress their bosses. Secretaries carried files, managers held meetings, and assistants ran from one floor to another. And then there was the janitor. His name was Samuel. Samuel was not young anymore. His back was slightly bent, his hands were rough from years of work, and his clothes were simple and worn out. Every morning, he arrived before the office opened, carrying his old cleaning supplies. He swept the floors, wiped the glass doors, and made sure everything was shining before the rich executives arrived. To most people, Samuel was invisible. He was just the janitor. They passed him without looking. They walked by him without greeting, and they acted as if he didn't exist. But to Emily, he was not invisible. She had seen his tired face, his slow steps, and his heavy sighs. Something about him made her curious. One morning, as Emily walked through the lobby, she noticed Samuel struggling with a heavy bucket of water. His hands were shaking and sweat dripped from his forehead. For a moment, she wanted to step forward and help, but then she stopped. She remembered her father's rules. Mr. Gray had always told her, people have their place. The janitor is a janitor. The manager is a manager. Don't cross the lines. So she stood still, watching silently. But inside, her heart felt heavy. Later that day, Emily passed Samuel again, this time in one of the office corridors. He was on his knees, scrubbing the floor with an old cloth. His breathing was hard, and his face looked pale. She could not stop herself anymore. She bent down slightly and asked, "Are you okay?" Samuel looked up in shock. No one of her status had ever spoken to him like that. He blinked and stuttered. "I'm fine, miss. Just work." Emily wanted to say more, but footsteps echoed down the hall. Two managers were walking toward them. Quickly, she straightened her back and walked away, pretending nothing had happened. Her heart raced. She knew if her father ever found out she was speaking to a janitor, he would not like it. That night, Emily could not sleep. She kept thinking about Samuel. She wondered about his life, his family, and his struggles. Why did he look so weak? Why did he look so tired? Did he have someone waiting for him at home? The next morning, she saw him again. This time he was carrying a large trash bag, and his hands shook as if the weight was too much for him. Emily took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and stepped forward. "Let me help you," she said softly. Samuel froze. He looked around, almost afraid someone else might see. "No, miss, please. You should not. It is not right." But Emily gently took part of the bag from his hand. "It's okay," she said. "I want to help." Samuel's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly looked away. He had lived a life where kindness was rare, and now the daughter of the richest man was offering him help. He did not know what to say. From that day, a secret bond began between them. Emily would sometimes ask him if he had eaten, sometimes bring him a bottle of water, and sometimes just smile at him. To her, these were small acts of kindness. But to Samuel, they were miracles. Still, every time she helped him, Emily felt a shadow in the back of her mind, the shadow of her father. She knew if he ever discovered what she was doing, the consequences could be terrible. And then, it happened. One afternoon, when Emily was quietly handing Samuel some food in the corridor, a pair of eyes saw them. The senior manager of the company stood frozen, watching. His mouth opened slightly in shock, and then a small smile appeared. He did not smile because he was happy. He smiled because he knew the secret could be powerful. Without a word, he turned and walked away. Emily did not notice. Samuel did not notice. But the manager was already on his way to Mr. Gray's office, and that was the beginning of something that would shake the company, the family, and the life of everyone involved. Samuel had worked in the billionaire's company for almost 10 years. Every morning, long before the sun rose, he left his small, broken house in the poor part of the city. His house was nothing more than 2 rooms with cracked walls and a leaking roof. But for Samuel, it was home, and inside that home lived the reason he worked so hard, his little daughter. Anna was only 8 years old. She was a bright, beautiful child with eyes full of dreams. But she was also sick. A serious illness had weakened her body, and the doctors demanded money Samuel could never imagine paying. Each day he looked at her and promised himself that he would not give up. No matter how hard life became, when Samuel arrived at the office building each morning, he put on his old uniform, picked up his broom and mop, and disappeared into the hallways before the rich employees arrived. He worked silently, carefully, and quickly. People walked past him without greeting, as if he was a piece of furniture. But Samuel did not complain. He needed the job. He needed the little money he earned. Still, deep inside, he carried a heavy pain. The janitor's salary was not enough. After paying rent, buying cheap food, and medicine for Anna, there was almost nothing left. Sometimes he skipped meals just to save a little extra for her medicine. And even worse, Samuel carried shame. He had once dreamed of being more than this. In his younger years, he studied hard, hoping to work in an office himself. But life had been cruel. His parents died early, his studies were left unfinished, and he had to work as a cleaner to survive. Every time he bent down to scrub the floors, he remembered those lost dreams. The employees never asked about his life. They did not know, and they did not care. To them, he was invisible. But there was one pair of eyes that noticed Emily Gray. Emily had always been different from her father. While Mr. Gray valued money, Emily valued people. She noticed things others ignored. She saw the janitor shaking hands, his tired steps, and the sadness he carried in silence. One morning, she walked into the building and found Samuel standing near the elevator. He held his broom, but his face was pale and his eyes looked far away, as if he was lost in thought. Emily paused. For a moment she wanted to speak, but she hesitated. Her father's words echoed in her mind. "Do not mix with people below your status." She almost walked away. But then Samuel coughed a deep, painful cough that made him bend over. Instantly, Emily rushed to him. "Are you all right?" she asked softly. Samuel straightened up quickly. His pride would not allow him to show weakness. "I'm fine, miss. Just dust. Always dust in this building." But Emily knew he was not fine. She could see the tiredness in his eyes. She wanted to ask more, but footsteps came from behind. A group of executives entered the lobby, talking loudly about profits and meetings. Emily stepped back quickly, pretending she was only waiting for the elevator. Samuel lowered his head and returned to work. But deep inside, he was touched. For the first time in years, someone had cared enough to ask if he was all right that night. Emily could not forget the look on his face. She sat by her window, thinking about him. Why was he so pale? Why was he coughing so much? Did he have anyone to take care of him? The next day, Emily's curiosity grew. She began to watch Samuel from a distance. She saw how he arrived early, cleaned tirelessly, and left late. She noticed how he sometimes held his chest when he coughed. She noticed how he sometimes closed his eyes, as if carrying a heavy burden no one else could see. Finally, one morning, she gathered her courage. She found Samuel in a quiet corridor, wiping the windows. "Good morning," she said gently. Samuel turned, surprised. No one ever greeted him. He hesitated, then replied in a low voice. "Good morning, miss." Emily smiled. "You work very hard. I see you every day." Samuel looked down, uncomfortable. "It is my job, miss. I must do it." Emily tilted her head. "Do you have a family?" Samuel froze. No one had ever asked him that question here. His eyes grew moist, and for a moment he struggled to answer. Finally, in a quiet voice, he said, "Yes, my little daughter. She is sick. Very sick." Emily's heart sank. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "That must be very hard." Samuel nodded slowly. "It is hard, miss, but she is my life. Everything I do for her." For a moment, Emily stood in silence. She wanted to help, but she knew how dangerous it was. If her father discovered she was speaking to a janitor, let alone helping him, his reaction would be terrible. Still, she could not walk away. That day marked the beginning of something secret, something dangerous, and something powerful. Emily had taken the first step into a world her father would never approve of. She did not know it yet. But her kindness would soon lead to a storm that would shake her family and her father's empire. And Samuel, the poor janitor who lived in silence, was about to find himself in the center of it all. The next morning, Emily woke up earlier than usual. She could not stop thinking about Samuel and his words. "My little daughter? She is sick. Very sick." Those words kept echoing in her heart. She sat at her breakfast table, the golden sunlight falling across the expensive dishes in front of her. There were fresh fruits, warm bread, butter, and a cup of hot coffee. But for the first time in her life, the food felt tasteless. All she could think about was Samuel's tired face and the image of a little girl waiting for her father at home, sick and fragile. Her father, Mr. Gray, was busy reading the newspaper across the table. His sharp eyes moved across the headlines of business and stock markets. Without looking up, he said, "Emily, remember, we have a dinner tonight with Mr. Hawkins. His son will be there too. You should be prepared." Emily nodded silently, but she did not respond. Her mind was far away. She thought, if only father could care about people the way he cares about money. When she reached the office building later that morning, her eyes immediately searched for Samuel. She found him in a corner of the lobby, trying to carry 2 heavy buckets of water. His hands shook, and his back bent under the weight. Emily's heart ached. Without thinking twice, she stepped forward. "Let me help you," she said softly. Samuel nearly dropped the bucket in shock. "No, miss, please. This is not for you. People will see. It is not right." Emily smiled gently. "It's okay. Nobody is looking. Give me one." Before he could protest, she held the handle of one bucket. It was heavier than she expected, but she carried it with determination. Samuel followed beside her, his eyes filled with both gratitude and fear. "Miss, if someone sees this, they will talk," Samuel whispered. "Let them talk," Emily replied quietly. "Sometimes people need help, and sometimes we must be brave enough to give it." Samuel lowered his eyes. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. From that day onward, Emily began to help Samuel in small, secret ways. Sometimes she carried things for him. Sometimes she left a bottle of cold water on his cart when no one was watching. And sometimes, when she saw him coughing, she would quietly place a handkerchief near him, pretending it had simply fallen from her hand. Samuel noticed every act, and each one filled his heart with warmth he had not felt in years. For so long, the world had treated him like he was invisible. But Emily saw him. Emily cared. One afternoon, Emily found Samuel cleaning near the back entrance. He looked weaker than usual, his face pale, his steps unsteady. "Samuel," she whispered, "did you eat today?" Samuel smiled weakly. "Yes, miss, a little bread." Emily frowned. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small lunchbox. "Here, take this." Samuel stepped back quickly. "No, miss, I cannot. Please," Emily interrupted softly. "It's just food. Nothing more." His hands shook as he took the box. Inside, there was fresh bread, fruit, and a small piece of chicken. Samuel's eyes filled with tears. He swallowed hard and said, "Thank you." "Miss, you don't know what this means to me." Emily smiled, but in her heart, she felt fear. She knew her father would be furious if he found out. But something inside her told her this was the right thing to do. That night, Samuel returned home with the food. His daughter, Anna, sat on a thin mattress, her face pale but her eyes bright. When Samuel opened the box, Anna gasped with joy. "Papa, real chicken?" she whispered. Samuel nodded with a smile. "Yes, my little one. A kind angel gave it to us." Anna ate slowly, savoring every bite. Samuel watched her, his heart breaking and healing at the same time. For the first time in weeks, he saw her smile. The next day, Samuel quietly approached Emily when no one was around. "Miss," he said, his voice low, "why are you helping me? You are rich. You don't need to care about people like me." Emily looked at him, her eyes gentle but firm. "Because everyone deserves kindness, Samuel. No matter who they are." Samuel's lips trembled. He wanted to say more, but his throat tightened. All he could whisper was, "Thank you." Days turned into weeks, and the secret bond between them grew stronger. But danger was never far away. Emily always looked over her shoulder, afraid someone might see. Samuel always worked faster, afraid someone might ask questions. And then, one afternoon, the danger became real. Emily was in the storage room, handing Samuel some medicine she had bought for his cough. Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door creaked open, and a shadow fell across the floor. Emily froze. Samuel's heart stopped. Someone had seen them, and this someone would not keep. Quiet, the silence in the storage room was heavy. Emily and Samuel both stood frozen as the footsteps echoed past the door. Whoever it was did not enter. But the moment reminded them both of the danger. Emily waited until the sound faded, then turned back to Samuel. His face was pale, his breathing uneven. She placed the small packet of medicine into his hand and whispered, "Take this. It will help with the cough. Please, Samuel, don't refuse." Samuel's eyes watered. His lips trembled as he tried to speak. "Miss, I cannot." "You are risking too much for me," Emily shook her head. "I don't care about risk. I care about what's right. And I care about you, Samuel. You shouldn't suffer in silence." Her words broke something inside him. For years, Samuel had carried his pain alone. For years, he had swallowed his tears and buried his voice because no one cared to listen. But now someone cared. Someone was asking him to speak. And so, slowly, Samuel opened his heart. He told Emily about his childhood, how he had once dreamed of becoming a teacher, of helping children learn and grow. He had studied hard as a young boy, always coming first in his class. But when he was 16, his parents died in a road accident. Suddenly, his dreams collapsed. With no money, no support, and no one to guide him, Samuel left school and started working. First, he carried bricks at construction sites. Then he cleaned shops and washed dishes at small restaurants. Life became a chain of endless labor. Yet even in those dark days, Samuel found love. He married a kind woman named Sarah, who gave him strength and hope. Together, they had a daughter, Anna. For a time, life felt brighter, but fate was cruel. Sarah fell sick only a few years after Anna's birth. Samuel tried everything: cheap doctors, borrowed medicines, prayers late at night, but nothing could save her. She passed away, leaving Samuel broken, with a small child in his arms. Tears filled his eyes as he spoke. "She was my light, miss. When she died, the world became dark. I promised her I would take care of Anna no matter what. That is the only reason I keep living." For Anna, Emily's own eyes glistened. She could feel his pain in every word. Samuel continued, his voice low and heavy. "Anna, she is all I have. But she is sick now, very sick. The doctors say she needs proper treatment, medicine, and care. But how can I give her that with this salary? I try, miss. I try every day. I skip meals, I work extra hours, I walk instead of taking buses. But still, it is not enough." He covered his face with his rough hands, ashamed of his tears. "Do you know what hurts the most, miss? Not the hunger, not the tired body. It is when Anna looks at me with her innocent eyes and asks, 'Papa, when will I get better?' And I have no answer." Emily's heart broke. She reached out, gently touching his arm. "Samuel, you don't have to carry this alone anymore. I'm here now. I'll help you." Samuel shook his head quickly. "No, miss. You must not. If your father finds out, he will be furious. You know this. He does not allow such things. He believes in power, not kindness." Emily's voice grew firm. "Let him believe what he wants. But I will not stand by and watch you suffer. You deserve better. Your daughter deserves better." For a moment, Samuel looked at her in silence. No one had ever spoken to him with such courage, such care. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to trust her. But fear still lived in his heart. "Miss," he whispered, "your heart is kind, but the world is not. If someone sees us again, if someone tells your father, he will not forgive you. And me, I will lose everything." Emily met his worried eyes. "Then we must be careful. No one needs to know. But promise me one thing, Samuel. Promise me you will not give up hope. Because as long as I am here, you are not alone." For the first time in many years, Samuel allowed himself to cry freely. His tears rolled down his cheeks, falling onto the dusty floor. But this time, his tears were not only of pain, they were also of relief. For the first time, he felt the heavy chains of silence breaking. Over the next days, Samuel slowly shared more with Emily. He told her how, after long hours at work, he returned home late at night to cook for Anna, wash her clothes, and sit by her side until she fell asleep. He told her how he sometimes stood outside the pharmacy, staring at medicines he could not afford. He told her how he once borrowed money from neighbors, but now had nothing left to repay. Each story cut into Emily's heart like a blade. She had grown up surrounded by wealth-expensive clothes, golden cutlery, soft beds, and servants who obeyed her every word. But now, she saw how different life could be for someone like Samuel. And for the first time, she felt ashamed of the walls of luxury that had protected her from the real world. One evening, as she lay in her soft bed, Emily whispered to herself, "How can Father not see? How can he care only about money when people like Samuel suffer so much?" She did not know the answer, but she knew one thing. She could no longer ignore Samuel's struggle. His pain had become her pain. Back at the office, however, not everyone was blind. The senior manager who had seen Emily with Samuel still remembered that sight. He did not speak of it yet, but in his mind he stored it like a weapon. He knew that one day, revealing this secret could win him favor with Mr. Gray. And so, while Samuel opened his heart to Emily, danger quietly grew around them. Late one evening, as Samuel prepared to leave the building, Emily stopped him. She handed him a small envelope. "What is this, miss?" he asked, confused. Just a little help, Emily replied softly. For medicine? Please don't refuse. Samuel opened the envelope and gasped. Inside was enough money to buy proper treatment for Anna. His knees almost gave way. He looked at Emily, his lips trembling, his eyes wide with disbelief. Miss, this is too much. I cannot take it. Emily shook her head. You must. Think of Anna. She needs you strong. She needs you alive. Samuel pressed the envelope to his chest, tears running down his face. God bless you, miss. You are an angel. Emily smiled, but deep in her heart, fear stirred. Because she knew one day her father would discover everything. And when that day came, the world she had built with her kindness would be shaken to its core. But she also knew something else. No matter what happened, she would not regret helping Samuel, because in his broken voice, in his weary eyes, she had found something money could never buy: the truth about what it meant to be human. The days passed slowly inside the glass tower of Mr. Gray's company. To the world outside, the building looked like a symbol of power and success. But inside its walls, a quiet story of kindness was unfolding, a story no one else knew. Except two people, Emily Gray and Samuel, the janitor. After Samuel opened his heart to Emily, their secret bond grew stronger. Emily now carried a heavy responsibility. She knew Samuel's life depended on small things she could do for him. Things that might seem ordinary for her but meant survival for him. And so, she began helping him in quiet, careful ways. Every morning, before leaving her mansion, Emily packed a small lunchbox. She filled it with sandwiches, fruits, or sometimes soup her cook had prepared. She would hide it inside her bag and bring it to the office. Then, when no one was watching, she would leave it near Samuel's cleaning cart, pretending she had dropped it by mistake. At first, Samuel resisted. Miss, I cannot keep taking from you. It is not right. But Emily smiled softly. It is not charity, Samuel. It is friendship. Friends share. Those words touched him deeply. For years, Samuel had believed he had no friends in this world. But now, the daughter of the richest man was calling him her friend. When he brought the food home, Anna's face lit up with joy. Papa, where did this come from? She asked, her eyes wide as she bit into a fresh apple. Samuel smiled, his heart breaking and healing at the same time. From a kind angel, my child? Anna laughed softly. Then you must thank the angel for me. Emily also began slipping small packets of medicine into Samuel's pocket. Sometimes she bought cough syrup for him. Sometimes vitamins for Anna. Each time Samuel protested, but Emily's gentle eyes silenced him. Samuel, she whispered, you must stay strong for your daughter. If you fall sick, who will take care of her? Her words made him accept the medicine with tears in his eyes, but kindness is never simple in a world ruled by fear. Every time Emily helped Samuel, she felt the shadow of her father hanging over her. She would glance around the corridors, making sure no one was watching. She would speak in whispers, hide her gifts inside papers, use secret spots in the building to pass things. Samuel, too, was always nervous. His hands shook whenever he accepted something. Miss, he said one day, if your father finds out, he will destroy me. He will not forgive you either. Emily's face grew firm. Then we will not let him find out. But even if he does, I will not regret it. Do you hear me, Samuel? I will never regret helping you. Those words gave Samuel strength. They became a light in his dark world. One rainy evening, Samuel returned home carrying a bag Emily had secretly given him. Inside were groceries, rice, bread, milk, and some vegetables. When Anna saw the food, she clapped her little hands. Papa, we can eat a real meal tonight. Samuel sat beside her as she ate happily. For the first time in months, he did not worry about tomorrow. He looked at her and whispered a silent prayer for Emily. May God protect her, he thought. She has brought hope back into our lives. Meanwhile, Emily's own life became more complicated. She had to attend family dinners, social parties, and endless meetings where her father showed off his wealth and power. But no matter how many rich people surrounded her, Emily kept thinking of Samuel and Anna. One evening, As she sat at a lavish dinner table filled with expensive food, she stared at the golden plates and shining glasses. Laughter echoed around her as wealthy guests boasted about their money and businesses. But all Emily could think about was Samuel eating dry bread alone in his small home, and Anna waiting for her father with hopeful eyes. The thought made her lose her appetite. She pushed the food away silently. Her father noticed and frowned. "Emily, what's wrong with you these days? You barely eat, you look distracted. You must focus. People are watching." Emily forced a small smile. "I'm fine, father." But deep inside, she knew she was not fine. She was torn between two worlds, the world of her father's wealth and pride, and the world of Samuel's pain and struggle. At the office, whispers began to spread. Some employees noticed Emily walking near the janitor more often. Some saw her leave small things on his cart. Most ignored it, but a few started gossiping. The senior manager, who had once seen them together, kept his eyes sharp. He did not act yet, but he was waiting for the right moment. And so, while Emily and Samuel built a bridge of kindness, danger quietly crept closer. One morning, Emily found Samuel coughing badly near the staircase. His body shook, and his knees almost gave way. She rushed to him, holding his arm. Double quotes Samuel. "You must see a doctor." "I cannot, miss," he whispered, his face pale. "Doctors need money I do not have." Emily pressed a small envelope into his hand. "Use this. Please don't argue. Go to the doctor for Anna's sake, if not for yourself." Samuel stared at the envelope, his lips trembling. He wanted to refuse, but Emily's determined eyes gave him no choice. He nodded slowly. That evening, for the first time, Samuel took Anna to a proper clinic. The doctor examined her carefully and gave him medicine that could help. As Samuel watched Anna smile with new hope, his heart filled with gratitude for Emily. But gratitude was not the only thing filling his heart. Fear also grew stronger. Because he knew that if Mr. Gray ever discovered his daughter's secret acts of kindness, there would be consequences. Terrible consequences. And Samuel was right, because at that very moment, far away in his glass office, Mr. Gray's eyes were already narrowing. He had started noticing his daughter's unusual behavior, and he did not like it. The bond between Emily and Samuel grew stronger each day. Their conversations were still brief, often whispered in corners or behind cleaning carts. But every word carried meaning. Emily could see it in Samuel's eyes, a weight he carried, heavier than any mop or bucket. She knew he was hiding more than he had told her. And one evening, after a long day, she finally asked the question that had been burning inside her heart. "Samuel," she said softly, her voice trembling with both care and curiosity, "what is it that troubles you the most? You always look tired, always worried. Please, tell me everything. I want to know." Samuel froze. He had never spoken of his past to anyone. Sharing his pain was dangerous. But when he looked into Emily's gentle eyes, something inside him broke. He could no longer carry the burden alone. He leaned against the wall, lowered his head, and whispered, "Miss Emily, my life is not what you see here. There is more, much more." Samuel's past years ago, Samuel had been a simple man with dreams like anyone else. He had married a woman he loved deeply, and together they had built a small but happy home. He worked at a factory back then, earning just enough to provide. But fate had been cruel. His wife fell sick, a disease that grew worse with time. Samuel spent all his savings on hospital visits, medicines, and treatments, but nothing worked. The day she passed away, Samuel's world collapsed. "I promised her," Samuel whispered, his eyes moist. "I promised her I would take care of our daughter. Anna, that was the last thing she asked of me before she closed her eyes forever." Emily's heart tightened. She could see the pain in his trembling hands as he spoke. The weight of debts after his wife's death. Samuel's life turned into a struggle for survival. He lost his job at the factory when machines replaced workers. Desperate, he borrowed money from lenders to pay rent, buy food, and treat Anna when she fell sick. But debts are like chains once they wrap around you. They never let go. "The more I tried to pay," Samuel said, his voice breaking, the deeper I sank. "The lenders came to my door, shouting, threatening. I sold everything we had, our furniture, my wife's jewelry, even the bed we used to sleep on. Still, it was not enough." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed silent, letting him pour out the years of suffering he had buried inside. Anna's illness, then Samuel spoke of Anna. His little daughter, the only light in his life? She was born weak, he explained. Her body never grew strong like other children. Doctors said she needed proper food, medicine, and care. But how could I give her that when I barely earn enough to keep a roof over our heads? He paused, clutching his chest as if the memory itself was too heavy. There were nights, he whispered, when Anna cried herself to sleep from hunger. I sat beside her, pretending I had already eaten just so she would not feel guilty. And every time she coughed, every time her tiny body shook, I felt like a failure as a father. Emily's tears slipped down her cheeks. She could picture the fragile girl lying in a cold, dark room, her father sitting beside her with empty hands. The present struggle now. Samuel worked as a janitor in Mr. Gray's massive company, sweeping floors that shone like mirrors. While his own life remained covered in shadows, "I cleaned this palace of glass and steel," he said bitterly, "but my own home is falling apart. Every chair in this building costs more than I earn in a month. And yet, people look at me as if I am invisible." His voice grew low, almost broken. "Miss Emily, do you know what it feels like to be invisible? To work day and night and still be treated like dirt under someone's shoes?" Emily shook her head gently. "No, Samuel, I cannot imagine it. But I can see it in your eyes, and I will never treat you that way." Samuel lifted his eyes to her, surprised. In her gaze, he saw no pity, only respect. The fear of Mr. Gray, but then his face grew tense again. "Miss Emily," he said carefully, "if your father ever learns about this, about what you do for me, he will destroy me. He does not see men like me as human beings. To him, I am just a tool, replaceable, worthless. If he finds out, I may lose this job. And if I lose this job, Anna will lose everything." Emily swallowed hard. She knew her father's temper too well. He ruled his empire with iron fists, and kindness was a language he never spoke. "Then we must be careful," Emily whispered. "He will not find out. I promise." But inside her heart trembled. How long could they keep this secret hidden? A silent promise that night, Samuel went home with new medicine Emily had given him for Anna, as he handed it to his daughter. He remembered every word he had spoken to Emily. For years, he had carried his suffering alone. Now he had shared it, and somehow that made the burden lighter. Anna hugged her father tightly. "Papa, are you crying?" she asked softly. Samuel smiled weakly. "No, my child. These are not tears of sadness. These are tears of hope." And deep inside, he whispered a silent prayer. "God, protect this young woman who has shown us kindness. Let no harm come to her." But far away, in his tall glass office, Mr. Gray was beginning to notice strange things. He had seen his daughter slipping away with odd excuses. He had noticed her distracted face at dinners. He had begun to sense that something was happening behind his back. And when Mr. Gray sensed something, the storm was never far behind. The rain fell heavily outside the tall glass building. Thunder rolled in the distance, but inside the company halls, silence echoed after the busy day ended. Most workers had left, their shoes clicking away on polished floors. Only a few lights remained on. In one of the quiet corridors, Samuel pushed his heavy cleaning cart, tired as always. His back ached, his hands were rough, but his spirit carried one small flame of hope now, the kindness of Emily Gray. And that night, the flame grew brighter, a hidden gift as Samuel swept near the corner offices. Emily appeared quietly, carrying a small paper bag. Her steps were soft, her eyes darting around to ensure no one was watching. "Samuel," she whispered, "take this." He hesitated. "Miss, what is it this time?" Emily pressed the bag into his hands firmly. "Food, and some milk for Anna. She needs it more than anyone in this world." Samuel's throat tightened. He wanted to refuse, as always. But when he thought of Anna coughing in her bed, he clutched the bag to his chest. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Thank you, Miss Emily. I don't know how to repay you." Emily smiled softly. "Then repay me with one thing. Promise me you will not tell anyone. Not a soul. This must stay between us." The promise. Samuel froze. He understood what she meant. If her father, the powerful Mr. Gray, ever found out that his daughter was secretly helping a janitor, there would be consequences neither of them could survive. "I promise," Samuel said, his voice low but steady. "I will never speak of this. Even if it costs me my job, even if it costs me my life, I will protect your secret." Emily placed a gentle hand on his arm. "No, Samuel. I don't want you to lose your job. I only want Anna safe. You are a good man. You deserve better than this life of pain. But until things change, we must walk in shadows." His eyes filled with tears. "Bless you, Miss Emily. You have given me something even richer than food or money. And what is that?" she asked softly. "Hope," he whispered. Silent acts of kindness. From that day on, Emily began helping Samuel regularly. Each morning, she carried something hidden in her bag: bread, fruit, or sometimes small packets of rice and vegetables. She left them near his cart, under a cloth, or slipped them into his locker when no one was looking. At first, Samuel struggled with guilt. Every time he accepted something, he felt unworthy. But when he saw Anna's face light up after eating fresh meals, guilt melted into gratitude. "Papa, we are eating like rich people now," Anna would say with a giggle as she chewed on apples or drank warm milk. Samuel laughed softly, tears shining in his eyes. "Yes, my little one. All thanks to a kind angel." At night, while Anna slept peacefully, Samuel sat alone, staring at the medicine bottles Emily had given him. For the first time in years, he dared to dream that his daughter might actually recover, that she might have a future brighter than his own broken past. Emily's risk but helping. Samuel was not easy for Emily. Every step she took was a risk. She had to carefully watch her father's moods, the eyes of managers, and the whispers of employees. One mistake, one careless move, and the truth could explode like fire at dinners. Her father often spoke proudly of discipline and control. "In this world," Mr. Gray would say, raising his glass, "the strong survive and the weak are left behind. That is the rule of life." Emily's heart burned with anger each time she heard those words. But she kept her face calm, hiding her secret rebellion. Because in the shadows, she was breaking his rules every day by helping the weak survive. The fear of discovery. One afternoon, as Emily left a small envelope of money under Samuel's cleaning cloth, she suddenly heard footsteps. Her heart raced. She quickly stepped away, pretending to admire a painting on the wall. A senior manager passed by, giving her a curious glance. He did not stop, but Emily's pulse pounded until he disappeared around the corner. That night, she warned Samuel, "You must be careful. People are starting to notice." Samuel lowered his head. "Miss, if this ever puts you in danger, I will walk away. I will not let your kindness destroy your life." But Emily shook her head firmly. "No, Samuel, I will not stop. Your daughter needs me, and I cannot close my eyes to suffering. If I stop helping, then what kind of person am I?" The growing bond with each passing day, their bond deepened. Emily no longer saw Samuel as a poor janitor. She saw him as a man carrying a mountain on his shoulders. A man still standing despite the storm of life. Samuel, in turn, began to see Emily not as a rich girl living in luxury, but as a soul brave enough to step out of her golden cage and show compassion where it mattered. Sometimes they shared short conversations about life, about Anna's dreams, about Emily's wish to live in a kinder world. "Do you know what Anna wants to be when she grows up?" Samuel asked one evening, smiling faintly. "What?" Emily asked eagerly. "A teacher," he replied. "She says she wants to teach children who cannot afford schools. She says she wants no child to feel left behind like her." Emily's eyes sparkled. "Then she has your heart, Samuel. Strong, kind, and unselfish. Samuel looked down, embarrassed. No, miss. I am just a man who failed too many times. Anna deserves better. Emily shook her head. You have not failed. You are still fighting. That is what makes you strong. The whisper of trouble, but while kindness grew in secret, trouble also began to stir. Some employees whispered about Emily's unusual interest in the janitor. They spoke in low tones, but words travel fast, in offices and far above them. In his grand glass office, Mr. Gray had begun asking questions. He had seen his daughter leaving home early, carrying bags she never explained. He had noticed her distracted eyes at the dinner table, and Mr. Gray was not a man who ignored things. He was a man who always found the truth, no matter the cost. That night, as Emily lay awake in her mansion, staring at the ceiling, she replayed Samuel's promise in her mind. His words echoed softly, I will never speak of this, even if it costs me my life. She prayed those words would never be tested. But deep inside, she knew the storm was drawing closer, and when it came, it would shake all their lives. The company building shone like a jewel in the city skyline. By day, its glass walls reflected sunlight. By night, they sparkled with electric lights. But inside those walls, shadows moved quietly, and secrets tried to stay hidden. Emily thought her acts of kindness were invisible. She thought her steps were silent enough, her whispers soft enough, her gifts hidden well enough, but she did not know that eyes had begun to watch her every move. The senior manager, his name was Mr. Collins, one of the oldest managers in the company. Tall, thin, with sharp glasses that made him look like a hawk, Collins had worked under Mr. Gray for nearly 20 years. He was loyal, strict, and proud to follow the billionaire's rules without question. He had risen in power by one skill alone, noticing things others missed. And lately, he had noticed something very unusual. The daughter of the billionaire, Miss Emily Gray, had been spending too much time in corners where no rich daughter ever went. She walked near cleaning carts, spoke to the janitor, sometimes carried small bags she never explained. At first Collins thought it was nothing. But as days passed, the pattern became too clear. Why would the heir of this empire, he muttered to himself, be near a janitor of all people? This is not normal, not safe. The first glimpse, one evening, Collins walked through a hallway after most workers had left. He expected silence, but instead, he saw something that froze him mid-dash step. Emily was leaning close to Samuel, speaking in a soft voice. She handed him a paper bag, quickly covering it with a cloth on his cart. Collins narrowed his eyes behind his glasses. He could not hear their words, but the sight was enough. Strange. Very strange, he whispered. He stepped back quietly, hiding behind a column, and watched them. Emily smiled faintly at Samuel before walking away. Her head held low, as if she wanted no one to notice. When Samuel picked up the bag and slipped it into his pocket, Collins clenched his jaw. This is no ordinary kindness. Something is happening here. Seeds of suspicion for the next week. Collins kept his sharp eyes open. He noticed little details others ignored. Emily always carried something in her bag, even on days she did not have meetings. Samuel's cart often had small packages hidden under cloths, and whenever Emily walked by, Samuel's tired eyes lit up just a little, like a man seeing sunlight after years of darkness. Collins felt a storm brewing, and in his world, storms always reached the top. I must tell Mr. Gray, he thought, but not yet. First, I need proof. A dangerous game. Collins began moving quietly, walking in corridors at odd times, pretending to check on employees, but really following Emily's footsteps. He lingered near staircases, stood near offices, and watched reflections in glass windows. One afternoon, saw Emily slip an envelope into Samuel's pocket while pretending to hand him a cloth. Samuel's hand trembled as he took it. Emily glanced around nervously. Collins smiled thinly. Got you, he whispered, the burden of secrets meanwhile. Emily continued her secret mission with a pure heart, unaware of the hawk watching her. She brought medicine one day, fruits the next, always careful. Always whispering to Samuel, please promise me you won't say anything. No one must know. And Samuel always answered with the same words, "I promise." "Miss, your secret is safe." But Samuel's promises could not protect her from Collins's eyes. The janitor, weighed down by gratitude, often prayed silently, "God, don't let anyone find out. Protect this girl. She is risking everything for us." But fate had already started turning its wheels. Collins's dilemma. Collins was loyal to Mr. Gray, but he also knew how dangerous the billionaire's anger could be. If he went too soon without proof, and if Emily denied it, Collins himself could face humiliation. So he decided to wait, to watch longer. To collect enough evidence that even Emily could not deny, he began writing notes secretly. Dates, times, descriptions. June 12th, 7:15 p.m. Miss Gray seen near janitor's cart. June 14th, 6:40 p.m. Envelope passed. June 17th, 5:55 p.m. Small bag left under cloth. Each note became a weapon he would later deliver to Mr. Gray. The shadow above, his glass office above, Mr. Gray remained unaware. He was busy with deals, profits, and power. But Collins knew it was only a matter of time before the storm reached him. And when it did, he would explode. The suspense builds. One evening, Emily walked through the hallway, her heart racing as she carried medicine for Anna. She slipped it into Samuel's cart and whispered, "This will help. Make sure she takes it tonight." Samuel's eyes filled with gratitude. "Miss Emily, how do I ever thank you?" "By keeping your promise," she whispered. Neither of them saw the shadow at the far end of the hall, Collins, watching silently, his face hidden in the dim light, his eyes cold as steel. The decision that night. Collins sat at his desk, staring at his notes. He tapped his pen on the table, deep in thought. "Should I tell him now?" he muttered. "Or wait just a little longer?" At last, he leaned back and smirked. "No, I will wait. The more she hides, the bigger the scandal will be. And when the time is right, I will deliver the truth to Mr. Gray himself." His pen scratched one last line on the page. "Soon, the truth will break open." And with that, the trap tightened around Emily and Samuel. Though they still walked unaware into the storm, the city skyline glittered under the night sky. Inside the tallest building, at the very top, a single light still burned in the grand office of Alexander Gray, the billionaire feared by all. Mr. Gray sat behind his massive desk going through documents. His sharp eyes scanned numbers and deals. But his mind was restless. Something had been troubling him for weeks. He had noticed changes in his daughter. Emily used to sit quietly at dinners, listening to his lectures. She used to smile politely at the guests he brought home. She used to follow his rules without question. But lately, she had been different, distracted, silent, carrying bags she never explained, skipping meals, avoiding questions, and to a man like Mr. Gray. Change was dangerous. The arrival of Collins, the sound of footsteps echoed in the quiet hallway. A knock came at the heavy wooden door. "Enter," Mr. Gray commanded. The door opened, and Collins stepped inside. His thin figure bowed slightly, his glasses catching the golden light of the office. "Sir," Collins began, his voice low, respectful, but carrying weight. "I have something important to report." "Something unusual." Mr. Gray's eyes narrowed. "Speak." Collins adjusted his glasses. "It is about Miss Emily." The billionaire leaned forward, his hands folding on the desk. His voice dropped into a dangerous calm. "What about my daughter?" The whisper. Collins chose his words carefully. "He knew one wrong step could end his career, sir." He said slowly, "I have observed Miss Emily's spending. Unusual time with one of the janitors. His name is Samuel." Mr. Gray's face hardened. "A janitor." His tone carried disbelief, almost disgust. "Yes, sir," Collins continued. "She has been seen near him often. She leaves packages, envelopes, even small bags on his cart. At first I thought it was coincidence, but I have kept notes. It has happened again and again." The room grew heavy with silence. Mr. Gray's jaw tightened. his eyes burning with cold fire. "Are you certain?" he asked, his voice dangerously soft. Collins bowed his head. "Yes, sir. I would not bring this to you without certainty." The billionaire's anger missed her. Gray rose from his chair, his tall figure casting a shadow across the room. His hands gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles white. "My daughter. The heir to my empire." Lowering herself to speak with the janitor, the words dripped with rage. Collins remained silent, waiting. He knew the storm was only beginning. Mr. Gray turned to the wide glass window that overlooked the city. His reflection glared back at him, a man of power, now insulted by the thought of his daughter's secret. "Do you know what this means, Collins?" he said, his voice trembling with fury. "It means she is disobeying me. It means she is shaming me. It means she is betraying everything I have built." Collins lowered his head. "That is why I came to you, sir. To protect the company. To protect your name." Mr. Gray's fist slammed against the window glass, but it did not break. "She will not get away with this. No one betrays me, not even my own blood." "The plan begins, Mr." Gray turned back to Collins, his eyes sharp as blades. "You will continue watching them. Every step, every word. I want proof. I want to know exactly what she is doing with that janitor." Collins bowed. "Yes, sir. And when the time is right." Mr. Gray's lips curved into a cold smile. "I will deal with them both. She will learn what happens when someone defies Alexander Gray." Emily, unaware, meanwhile, Emily moved through the company halls with her usual quiet grace. She carried a small packet of food for Samuel, her heart full of kindness, her eyes always searching for shadows. But no matter how careful she was, she could not see the storm already forming above her. Samuel, too, remained unaware. That night, when Emily slipped him bread and fruit, he whispered gratefully, "God bless you, Miss Emily. You are saving our lives." She smiled softly. "Just keep your promise, Samuel. No one must ever know." Neither of them knew that their secret was no longer safe. Collins's report later that week. Collins returned to Mr. Gray's office with fresh notes. "June 21st, he read aloud. Miss Emily left a packet of medicine in the janitor's cart. June 23rd, she gave him an envelope. June 25th, she spoke to him privately near the staircase. Mr. Gray listened in silence, his anger growing colder, sharper. At last he spoke. "Enough. Soon I will confront her. But not yet. Let her believe she is safe. Let her believe no one knows. When I strike, it will be final." Collins bowed deeply. "As you command, sir." The silent storm and. So. The days continued, Emily helping, Samuel receiving, both bound by secrecy and kindness. But above them, unseen, a storm was waiting. For Alexander Gray was not a man who forgave. He was a man who punished. And when the truth finally broke open, he would destroy the fragile world Emily and Samuel had built. Alexander Gray was not a man who trusted words alone. Collins's report had planted the seed of suspicion. But Mr. Gray wanted proof with his own eyes, so he began to watch it first. He moved carefully, blending his presence with routine. He would arrive at the office unannounced, walk through the building, and observe employees with his sharp eyes. Nobody dared question him. His silence was more frightening than his anger, but his true focus was on Emily. The father's eyes, he noticed her small disappearances during work hours. She would leave her office for 10 minutes, sometimes 15. She carried her handbag, or a small packet. She would walk swiftly, looking over her shoulder as if she feared being followed. And every time, she returned lighter, calmer, but with a secret in her eyes. Mr. Gray's suspicion deepened. So Collins was right, he thought coldly. She is hiding something from me. A test of obedience. One evening at dinner, Mr. Gray decided to test his daughter. "Emily," he said, his voice casual, but his eyes sharp. "Tomorrow, I want you to join me for a meeting at noon. We will have lunch with investors afterwards. Do not be late." Emily's fork paused midair. Noon was the time she usually checked on Samuel. Her heart raced, but she forced a calm smile. "Yes, father." Mr. Gray studied her face. Her smile was polite, but her eyes flickered for a brief second hesitation. To him, that hesitation was confirmation. The next day, Emily went with him. She sat through the meeting, nodding politely, smiling when expected. But inside, she was restless. Her mind was not on the investor's words, but on Samuel and Anna at one point. When her father stepped away to take a call, she quietly pulled out her phone and typed a quick message. It was to the small pharmacy near Samuel's house, asking them to deliver medicine. But Mr. Gray returned sooner than she expected. He caught the glow of her phone screen before she quickly locked it. He said nothing, but his eyes grew colder. Samuel's restless heart, meanwhile. Samuel had begun to feel uneasy. Every time Emily slipped him food or medicine, he noticed how tense she seemed. She looked over her shoulder, her breath quick, her hands trembling slightly. One evening, as she handed him a packet, Samuel whispered, "Miss Emily, are you sure this is safe? What if someone sees?" Emily forced a smile. "Don't worry. No one knows," but deep down she was not sure anymore. The walls of the company felt heavier, the air sharper. She could not explain it, but something told her they were being watched. Samuel, too, felt eyes on him while he worked. Sometimes he caught Collins glancing his way. Sometimes he thought he saw a shadow at the end of the hall. And when he turned, no one was there. His nights grew sleepless. He prayed for protection. He prayed for Emily. And he prayed that his little Anna would never pay the price for their secret. The trap mister. Gray was a master of control. He knew how to expose lies. One morning, he told Emily he was leaving early for an out-of-town meeting. "I'll be gone all day," he said calmly. Emily nodded, relieved. With her father away, she could finally visit Samuel without fear. But it was a lie, mister. Gray did not leave the city. Instead, he remained inside the building, moving silently, his presence hidden. He waited. At noon, Emily slipped out of her office with a small bag in her hand. She walked quickly through the back hallway, her steps nervous, and Mr. Gray followed, from the shadows. He watched as she entered the storage room, the same place where Collins had once spotted her. Inside, Samuel was waiting. Emily handed him the bag. "It's fresh food. And some medicine for Anna. Please take it." Samuel's eyes filled with tears. "God bless you, Miss Emily. You are my angel." Emily smiled gently. "Just promise me you'll stay strong," outside the half-closed door. Mr. Gray stood in silence, his blood boiling. His daughter, his only child, sneaking behind his back to feed a janitor, lowering herself, betraying him, risking his name. The sight burned his pride like fire. The cold fury that evening. Emily returned home, unaware of what her father had seen at dinner. The room was quiet. Mr. Gray sat at the head of the table, his face expressionless, his knife cutting through his food with mechanical precision. Emily tried to eat, but the silence was heavy. She glanced at her father. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharp. But he said nothing. She did not know that he was replaying the scene over and over in his mind. The bag, the words, the gratitude in Samuel's voice. Mr. Gray's pride had been wounded. And when his pride was wounded, his anger was unstoppable. Samuel's fear the next day. Samuel noticed something strange. As he pushed his cleaning cart through the halls, people stared at him more than usual. Some whispered. Some avoided him. Collins's eyes followed him like a hawk. When he reached the lobby, 2 security guards were standing unusually close. His hands shook as he gripped the cart. He felt danger crawling closer that night as he sat beside Anna's bed. He whispered, "My little one, we may not have much time here. If something happens, remember that I love you more than anything in this world." Anna, too weak to understand fully, nodded and held his hand tightly. Emily's uneasy heart, Amalia too, could feel the change. Her father's silence was sharper than words. His eyes lingered on her longer, his tone colder. She tried to convince herself it was her imagination. But in her heart, she knew. He knew something, and if he truly knew, then the storm was about to break. The calm before the explosion? For now, Mr. Gray waited. He was a man of control, and he never exploded without purpose. He would gather proof. He would wait for the perfect moment. And when he struck, it would not just be punishment. It would be destruction. Emily continued helping Samuel in secret. But every act carried new fear. Samuel continued accepting her kindness. But every bite of food tasted like borrowed time. And above them both, Alexander Gray, the silent watcher, sharpened his anger. Waiting for the day he would unleash it, the storm was coming, and when it arrived, nothing would ever be the same. The mansion was quiet that evening. The long dining table glowed under golden lights, silverware shining neatly on polished wood. But the air was heavy, almost suffocating. Emily sat across from her father. The servants moved silently, placing dishes on the table, but no one spoke. Even they could feel the tension. Mr. Gray cut his steak slowly, his movements precise. His sharp eyes never left his daughter. Emily tried to act calm, but her hands trembled slightly as she lifted her fork. Her father's silence was more frightening than his anger. The question at last, Mr. Gray spoke. His voice was calm to calm. "Emily," he said, slicing through the silence, "tell me, what do you do during the hours when you leave your office?" Emily froze. The question pierced straight through her heart. For a second, she could not breathe. She forced a small smile. "Just walks, Father. Sometimes I need fresh air. The building can feel heavy." Mr. Gray's lips curved into a faint, cold smile. "Fresh air. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes sharp as knives. "Do you always take food with you when you go for air?" Emily's blood turned cold. "He knows." The trap of words, her fork slipped against the plate, making a soft sound. She tried to recover, her voice steady, but her chest tight. "Sometimes. I carry snacks." For myself, Mr. Gray's gaze did not move. "Snacks. Interesting. Because my people tell me you often leave the building lighter than you arrive. Bags disappear. Envelopes too." Emily's heart pounded in her ears. She knew Collins had spoken. She knew her father was not guessing. He was watching. "Father," she began, but her voice shook. Mr. Gray raised a hand, silencing her. His eyes burned. "Do not lie to me, Emily. I have built an empire by smelling lies before they are spoken. If you betray me with false words, the punishment will be far worse." Emily's throat tightened. She lowered her gaze, her fingers trembling on the fork. The billionaire's pride missed her. Gray rose from his chair, his tall frame casting a shadow across the room. He walked slowly around the table until he stood behind Emily. "You are my daughter," he said coldly. "My only heir. Everything I have built, every drop of power in this city, it is meant for you. And yet," his voice grew sharper, "you sneak around like a thief, hiding things from me, handing gifts to a janitor." The word cut the air like poison. Emily's chest tightened. She wanted to speak, to defend Samuel, but her lips would not move. Mr. Gray leaned closer, his whisper hot with fury. "Do you know what humiliation it brings me? My daughter lowering herself to the dirt, to the lowest of workers. To those who scrub floors beneath your feet." Tears burned in Emily's eyes, but she bit her lip. She knew if she cried, he would only see it as weakness. The first threat missed her. Gray straightened, his tone now sharp as steel. "Listen carefully, Emily. I will give you one chance. End this foolishness. Stop whatever you are doing with that man. If you disobey me, I will not forgive. And you know well what happens to those who defy me?" Emily swallowed hard, her heart aching. She wanted to say, "He is human. He has a child. He deserves kindness." But the words stuck in her throat. If she spoke them, she knew her father would explode. So she nodded slowly, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes, Father." Mr. Gray studied her face for a long moment, searching for any sign of rebellion. At last he turned away and walked back to his chair. "Good," he said simply, picking up his glass of wine. "Because one mistake, Emily, and that janitor will vanish from this city. Do you understand me?" Emily's heart dropped. She understood it was no longer just about her. Samuel's life and Anna's were now hanging by a thread. Samuel's worried that night. Emily went to Samuel with shaking hands. She slipped a small package of medicine into his cart and whispered urgently, "Samuel, you must be careful. My father suspects. He warned me tonight." Samuel's eyes widened. Fear rushed through him. "Miss Emily, if he knows, then you must stop. Do not risk yourself for me, please." Emily shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I cannot stop. Anna needs you, and you need me. But promise me, Samuel, if anything happens, you must protect your daughter first." Samuel's voice broke. "How can I ever repay you?" "You are risking everything," Emily whispered. "Then pray for me." That is enough. Neither of them knew that Collins had been standing in the far hallway watching again. His notebook ready, Mr. Gray's cold silence the next few days passed in heavy quiet. Mr. Gray said little to Emily, but his eyes followed her every move. His silence was not forgiveness. It was warning. Emily lived in constant fear, every step heavy with danger. She smiled in front of her father, but her heart raced whenever she saw Samuel. Samuel, too, lived in fear. He worked with trembling hands, always expecting to be dragged away by guards. His only comfort was Emily's courage. The storm rising, Collins continued to feed Mr. Gray details. "She has not stopped, sir. She still gives him packages. She still risks your name." Mr. Gray listened in silence, his anger sharpening like a blade. He had given her a warning. She had ignored it now, he decided. The time for silence was over. The next confrontation would not be words alone. It would be action. The company building no longer felt the same. Where once the halls were simply busy, now they were guarded. New security men stood at corners, their black suits blending with shadows, their sharp eyes scanning every movement. Employees whispered among themselves, "The boss is angry. Something is happening," but no one dared ask questions, and Samuel felt it most of all. Samuel's unnecessary step. Samuel took with his cleaning cart felt heavier. 2 guards lingered near him when he worked. They pretended to talk, but their eyes stayed fixed on him. When he mopped the marble floors, Collins sometimes appeared, watching silently, his notebook always in hand. Samuel's heart raced with fear. He whispered to himself as he worked, "Stay calm. Do not show fear. Do not let them see." But inside, he felt trapped. One evening, as he bent down to fix the wheel of his cart, he noticed a small red light blinking on the wall above. A new security camera. He froze. They were watching him even here. Emily Shakamali noticed the changes too. When she left her office, a guard always seemed to appear nearby. When she walked toward the back hallway, Collins suddenly turned the corner as if by accident. Her father had not spoken of it again since the dinner confrontation, but his silence was sharper than words. She understood now. He was not waiting. He was preparing. That night she sat in her room, her head buried in her hands. How do I protect Samuel? How do I protect Anna? If father truly acts, they will be destroyed. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she quickly wiped them away. Crying would not help. She needed strength, the first cornering the next day. Samuel was cleaning near the elevators when 2 guards approached. One said sharply, "Come with us." Samuel's heart nearly stopped. He gripped his mop tighter, his voice shaking. Is something wrong, sir?" "Mr. Gray wants details of your work," the guard said coldly. "Routine check." But Samuel knew there was nothing routine about it. They led him into a small security room, where Collins was waiting with a thin smile. Papers lay on the table, along with a list of Samuel's duties. "Sit," Collins said. Samuel obeyed, his hands trembling. Collins adjusted his glasses. "You have been working here for 5 years, yes?" "Yes, sir," Samuel whispered, and during this time Collins continued, "Have you ever spoken to Miss Emily Gray?" Samuel's chest tightened. He forced his eyes to the floor. "No, sir. Only polite greetings. Nothing more." Collins studied him in silence, his pen tapping on the table. Strange, because some have seen you near her often. Some say she lingers near your cart, that she gives you things." Samuel's heart pounded so loudly he thought they could hear it. He clenched his fists under the table, whispering a prayer. "With respect, sir," he said quietly, "I only do my work." Nothing more. Collins's eyes narrowed. For a moment the room felt suffocating, but then he leaned back and closed the file. "Very well," he said. "You may go." For now, the words "for now" echoed in Samuel's ears like a death sentence. Emily learns the truth later that evening. Samuel found a moment to whisper to Emily near the stairwell. His voice shook. "Miss Emily, they questioned me today. Collins, the guards. They asked about you." Emily's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "I denied everything. But, miss, I don't think they believe me. They are watching me. Watching you. This cannot continue." Emily gripped his hand for a brief second, her voice firm, though her eyes glistened with fear. "Listen to me, Samuel. Do not give in. If they press you again, say nothing. I will find a way to protect you." Samuel shook his head. "No, miss. You have already risked too much. If he destroys me, let it be. But do not let him destroy you," Emily whispered fiercely. "We either stand together or we fall together. I will not abandon you." Neither of them noticed that a small security camera had been placed just above the stairwell, its red light blinking, recording every word. Mr. Gray's watch that night. In his private office, Mr. Gray sat before a monitor. On the screen, the footage replayed. Emily gripping Samuel's hand, whispering with desperate eyes, his lips curved into a cold, cruel smile. "So," he muttered, "even after my warning, she defies me." His hand tightened into a fist. "Very well. If she chooses him, then she will lose him. And she will learn that Alexander Gray's will is absolute." The daughters fear Melly returned home late, her chest heavy with dread. At dinner, her father was calm. He asked nothing, spoke little, but his eyes lingered on her with the look of a hunter waiting for his prey to weaken. That night in her room, Emily prayed softly. "God, protect Samuel. Protect Anna. If the storm must come, let it fall on me and not on them." Her tears wet the pillow, but her resolve only grew stronger. She would not stop helping, even if it cost her everything. The net closes over the next week. The building became a cage. Guards doubled. Cameras appeared in every hallway. Collins followed Emily like a shadow. Samuel felt suffocated, each day expecting to be dragged away. Emily felt trapped, her father's silence pressing down like an invisible chain. And above them all, Alexander Gray prepared his strike. He was not a man who forgave. He was a man who crushed. The net was closing, and soon there would be no escape. The morning began like any other. Samuel arrived early, pushing his cart into the grand lobby. The marble floors gleamed, the glass walls sparkled, but to him, the building felt like a prison. Something in the air was different. He felt it the moment he stepped in. The guards were not standing casually anymore. They were positioned like hunters. Their eyes followed him as if waiting for a signal. Samuel swallowed hard and whispered a silent prayer. The trap by noon. The trap was ready. Samuel was cleaning the corridor near the executive offices when 3 guards approached. Their black shoes echoed on the floor like thunder. "You, Samuel," one of them said coldly. "Come with us." Samuel froze. His hands gripped the mop tighter. "Sirs, I have work now," the guard barked. Before Samuel could react, 2 guards seized his arms. His tools clattered to the floor. "Please, what have I done?" Samuel begged, his voice shaking. "Questions are not for you," the guard replied. "Mr. Gray wants you." The word struck Samuel like a blade. His face drained of color. Emily's discovery. Emily had been in her office, reviewing documents she barely understood. Her mind was on Samuel and Anna as always. Suddenly, a young assistant rushed in, eyes wide. "Miss Emily, they've taken the janitor guards. They're bringing him to your father's office." Emily's heart stopped. She shot up from her chair, her breath quick and shallow. No, she whispered. Without thinking, she ran out, her heels striking the marble floor as she raced down the corridor. Samuel, before the billionaire the guards dragged. Samuel, into the grand office at the top floor. The vast room felt colder than usual, its glass walls reflecting the city like a mirror of power. Behind the massive desk sat Alexander Gray. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. "Leave him," Mr. Gray ordered. The guards released Samuel, who stumbled forward, his knees weak. He bowed his head, trembling. "Mr. Gray, sir, I don't understand." Silence, Mr. Gray thundered. His voice shook the air like a whip. He rose from his chair, his tall frame towering over Samuel. "You know why you are here? Do not insult me with lies." Samuel's lips trembled. "I swear, sir, I only do my work." Mr. Gray slammed his fist on the desk. "Work? Your work is to clean floors. Not to steal the attention of my daughter? Not to poison her mind with your pitiful existence?" Samuel's chest tightened. He fell to his knees. "Please, sir, I never meant harm. She only showed kindness." "Nothing more? Kindness?" Mr. Gray spat the word like venom. "Do you think my daughter is a charity worker? Do you think the heir of Alexander Gray's empire should waste her life on a man like you?" Samuel's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, please. She only wanted to help my child. My Anna. We are poor, but we never wanted trouble. I beg you, let her be. Punish me if you must, but not her." Mr. Gray's face hardened like stone. "You dare speak of my daughter as if you own her mercy? You dare beg before me?" Emily arrives. The office doors burst open. Emily rushed in, her face pale, her breath ragged. "Father," she cried, running to Samuel's side. She knelt beside him, gripping his shoulder protectively. "Let him go." Mr. Gray's eyes blazed with fury. "So it is true. You don't even hide it anymore." Emily's tears welled up, but her voice was steady. "Yes, it's true. I helped him. I gave him food, medicine, because he has nothing, Father. Because his daughter is sick. And because he is human, just like us." Mr. Gray's voice thundered. "Enough. You shame me with every word." Emily stood, her hands trembling, but her chin raised. "The shame is not mine, Father. The shame is in ignoring suffering when you have the power to stop it." For a moment, silence filled the room. The billionaire and his daughter stared at each other, fire against fire, the father's wrath. Mr. Gray's voice dropped, low and dangerous. "You dare defy me in my own house? You dare stand with this filth?" Emily's tears slipped down her cheeks, but her voice did not break. "If standing with him is wrong, then I will be wrong. But I will not abandon him. Not while I live." Mr. Gray's hands slammed the desk again. "Then hear me, Emily. If you continue this madness, I will destroy him. I will erase him from this city as if he never existed. Do you understand me?" Emily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "No, Father, please." Samuel bowed low, sobbing. "Sir, punish me if you must. But do not hurt her. She is innocent, innocent?" Mr. Gray roared. "She is guilty of betraying me. And you are guilty of daring to touch what is mine." His voice shook the glass walls. The guards returned with a sharp gesture. Mr. Gray called the guards back into the room. "Take him," he ordered coldly. "Lock him in the lower chambers until I decide his fate." "No," Emily screamed, rushing forward. She clung to Samuel's arm, trying to stop them. "Father, please, I beg you." The guards pried her away, dragging Samuel out as he cried, "Miss Emily, take care of Anna." His voice echoed down the hall as he disappeared. Emily collapsed to her knees, sobbing, her heart breaking. The final words, Mr. Gray looked down at her, his eyes merciless. "This is your doing," he said coldly. "Your disobedience has brought him to this end. Remember this moment, Emily. Remember it well. For mercy has ended tonight." Emily lifted her tear-streaked face, her voice trembling but strong. "Then know this, Father. Even if you chain him, even if you try to erase him. You will never erase the truth. He is a better man than your wealth will ever make you." Mr. Gray's face darkened with rage, but he said nothing more. He turned and walked to his desk, his silence heavier than thunder. Emily remained on the cold floor, her heart shattered. Knowing the storm had only just begun, the night was colder than usual. The city lights glowed outside, but inside the towering glass building, silence pressed down like a heavy blanket. Samuel was no longer free. He sat on the damp floor of a locked basement chamber beneath the company. His hands trembled, his clothes were torn from the guards dragging him down. The concrete walls surrounded him like a cage. He had no watch, no way to know the time. Hours passed like days. Every sound dripping water, the echo of footsteps felt louder, sharper, crueler. "Anna," he whispered into the darkness. His daughter's name was the only comfort he had left. He imagined her small face waiting at the window, looking down the street for him to return. He imagined her coughing, asking where her father was. The thought broke him. He pressed his hands to his face and wept silently, his body shaking. Emily's despaired meanwhile. Emily sat in her room at the mansion. Her father's words still burned in her mind. "Mercy has ended tonight." She could not forget the sight of Samuel being dragged away, his desperate cry, "Take care of Anna." Her chest tightened with guilt. She had wanted to help him, but now she had only made things worse. She paced the room like a trapped bird. Her hands shook as she thought, what if father truly destroys him? What if Samuel never sees his daughter again? Her heart screamed inside her, "I cannot let this happen. I must find a way." But the mansion was guarded. Mr. Gray had eyes everywhere. One wrong move, and he would lock her away too. Still, Emily whispered to herself, "I will not abandon him. I will not." The waiting child far from the mansion, in a small broken apartment, Anna sat curled on a thin mattress. The lamp flickered weakly. The food Emily had brought earlier was almost gone. The little girl stared at the door. "Every few minutes?" she asked in a small voice. "Papa?" But the door never opened. She coughed, clutching the old blanket tighter. Her chest hurt, her throat burned, but her eyes kept watching, hoping. "Papa promised he would come home," she whispered. "He promised." Tears slid down her cheeks, but she wiped them away quickly. She wanted to be strong, just like her father always told her. Still, deep inside, fear grew like a shadow. What if Papa never comes back? Mr. Gray's cold silence in his vast office. Alexander Gray stood by the window, hands behind his back. The city stretched beneath him like an empire. Yet his mind was not on business tonight. It was on his daughter's defiance. Her words repeated in his head. "He is a better man than your wealth will ever make you." His jaw clenched. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not partners, not rivals, not even enemies. And now his own daughter dared. But what burned more was the look in her eyes. Not fear, but conviction. She had chosen the janitor's side over her own father's authority. "Foolish girl," he muttered to himself. "She will learn." Yet deep inside, a faint unease stirred. For the first time, Alexander Gray was not sure if his power was enough to control his daughter's heart. The guards whispered down in the basement. 2 guards sat outside Samuel's locked chamber. They spoke in low voices, unaware that Samuel could hear through the thin walls. "Poor man," one said. "All this because Miss Emily tried to help him." The other guards scoffed. "Careful with your words. The boss would have your head if he heard you pitying that janitor." Still, the first guard sighed. "I have a daughter too. If I were him, I would do anything to protect her." Samuel's chest tightened as he listened. His heart ached. He thought of Anna again, her fragile body, her hopeful eyes. "I must live," he whispered to himself. "For her, no matter what." Emily's secret plan that night, Emily could not sleep. She sat by her desk, a candle flickering. Papers lay scattered, but she ignored them. Her mind raced with only one thought. How do I free Samuel? She remembered the layout of the company building. She remembered the basement chambers, the narrow service hallways, The old storage doors. She had visited them once as a child. An idea began to form. Dangerous, almost impossible, but an idea. She would need help. She could not fight the guards alone. But who could she trust? The workers were terrified of her father. Then she remembered the kind receptionist. A young woman who once whispered, "You have your mother's heart. Miss Emily, don't ever lose it." Emily's hand trembled, but her eyes hardened with resolve. She would take the risk. She would reach out secretly. "Hold on, Samuel," she whispered into the night. "I won't let my father destroy you." Samuel's silent prayer in the darkness of his cell. Samuel knelt. His knees pressed against the cold floor, his hands clasped tight. He whispered softly, "Lord, give me strength. Protect Anna. Protect Emily. Do not let this man's anger take everything from us." Tears rolled down his face, but his voice grew steadier. "If I must suffer, let it be me alone. But please, let my daughter live. Let her find kindness in this world, even if I cannot be there." His words echoed softly in the chamber. Rising like fragile hope against the crushing walls, Emily's defiance grows by dawn. Emily's decision was final. She would no longer be silent. She looked in the mirror and saw her mother's eyes in her reflection, gentle yet strong. She whispered, "Mother, if you can hear me, guide me. Give me courage to face Father's wrath. Give me strength to protect Samuel and Anna." Her tears dried. Her heart steadied. She knew the path ahead would be dangerous. But she also knew there was no turning back now. For the first time, Alexander Gray's daughter was ready to defy his empire, not with wealth, not with power, but with courage and compassion. And in the shadows of the mansion, the storm was only beginning to rise. The sun rose slowly over the city, its golden light shining on skyscrapers and busy streets. To most people, it was just another day. But for three souls, Samuel, Emily, and Anna, it was a day of fear, struggle, quiet war. Samuel's weakening body in the cold basement of Gray Enterprises. Samuel lay on the floor. His back ached from the rough concrete, and his stomach growled with hunger. The guards had given him only a small piece of bread and a cup of water the night before. He forced himself to sit up, leaning against the wall. His breath came shallow, his body weak, but his mind refused to give up. He whispered, "I must hold on." For Anna, images of his daughter's face appeared in his mind. Her thin arms, her hopeful smile, the way she looked at him when he promised he would always return. But now, he had broken that promise. Tears welled in his eyes. He clenched his fists. "I cannot die here. I cannot leave her alone." The echo of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. A guard approached, sliding a tray into the cell. "Eat," the guard muttered. Samuel reached for the bread, but his hand trembled. His strength was fading faster than he wanted to admit. Emily's silent steps at the mansion. Emily dressed quietly. She chose a plain dress, not the elegant ones her father demanded. She tied her hair back simply, trying to blend in like any normal worker. Her plan was risky. If her father discovered she was sneaking around, he would lock her away as well. But she had no choice. She slipped a folded note into her pocket. It was addressed to the receptionist at the company, the only person Emily thought she might trust. The note read, "I need help. Samuel's life depends on it. Please meet me tonight near the side gate." As she tucked the note away, her hands trembled, but her eyes shone with determination. "Father will not win this time," she whispered. "Anna's failing." Strength, meanwhile, in the small apartment, Anna grew weaker. She had not eaten since yesterday. Her small hand shook as she reached for a half-empty glass of water. Her cough grew harsher, rattling her chest. She pressed a hand to her ribs, her eyes brimming with tears. "Papa!" she whispered, her voice broken. She dragged herself to the window, peeking through the torn curtain. Every sound of footsteps outside made her heart jump. Every shadow on the street made her hope. But the door remained closed. Her little body trembled as she whispered, "Please come back. Please." She curled back onto the mattress, her breath shallow. A dangerous fever burned in her body, Mr. Gray's iron will back in his office. Alexander Gray sat at his desk reviewing documents. But his mind was not on business. He thought of Emily's defiance, of her words cutting through his pride. He thought of Samuel, still locked in the basement, and of the threat that lingered if Emily continued her rebellion. He muttered to himself, she must learn. She must see that kindness brings only weakness. Yet something in him felt unsettled. Emily's eyes had reminded him of someone, his late wife. Her soft heart, her compassion, her ability to see people as more than wealth or power. He shook the thought away. Compassion is weakness, he told himself. And weakness destroys empires. But even as he said it, a shadow of doubt flickered deep inside him. The secret meeting that evening, Emily made her move. She pretended to go for a walk in the garden, smiling politely to the guards. But instead of returning, she slipped out through a side path and made her way to the company building. Her heart pounded as she entered quietly, avoiding the main lobby. She crept through a service corridor until she reached the reception desk. The young receptionist looked up, startled. "Miss Emily," she whispered. Emily placed the folded note on the desk, her voice low. "Please, don't show this to anyone. Samuel's life is in danger. I need your help." The woman's eyes widened, but then softened. She glanced around nervously before slipping the note under her papers. "I will read it later," she whispered. "Be careful, Miss Emily. Your father is watching everything." Emily nodded quickly, her heart racing. She knew she had taken a huge risk, but it was the only way forward. Samuel's whispered hope back in the basement. Samuel leaned against the wall, his head bowed. His body was weak, but his spirit clung to one small hope: Emily. He remembered her words in the office, defiance against her father, the fire in her eyes. "She will not give up," he whispered to himself. "She has her mother's heart. She will find a way." The guards outside shifted, one of them grumbling about the long hours. Samuel closed his eyes, whispering a final prayer before drifting into uneasy sleep. Anna's dangerous fever that same night. Anna's condition worsened. Her little body burned with fever. Sweat drenched her forehead as she tossed and turned on the mattress. "Papa, don't leave me," she murmured in her sleep. Her cough shook her thin body violently. She tried to cry out, but her voice was too weak. The room felt darker, colder. For the first time, Anna felt the shadow of death close by. Her small hands clutched the blanket tightly as she whispered, "Papa." Before slipping into restless sleep again, Emily's silent vow back in her room. Emily sat by the window, staring at the night sky. She thought of Samuel locked in the basement, of Anna lying sick and alone, of her father standing like a wall between mercy and cruelty, her fists clenched. "I will not let him win," she said softly. "I will not let Samuel die, and I will not let Anna lose her father." The stars above seemed to shine brighter for a moment, as if silently agreeing with her vow. But Emily knew the real battle was just beginning, and the cost of her defiance would be greater than she had ever imagined. The night was heavy with silence. Inside the towering glass building, the air was colder than ever. The empire of Alexander Gray stood firm, but within its walls. Hearts were breaking. Samuel on the edge, in the basement chamber. Samuel lay on the floor, too weak to rise. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Hunger gnawed at him, and his body trembled with fever. His lips cracked as he whispered, "Anna, forgive me." He thought of his little girl, alone in their small apartment. He imagined her coughing, waiting by the door, whispering for her father to return. Tears slid down his face. His vision blurred, but his heart clung to one final thread of hope. Emily. She will not give up, he whispered. She will save you. His voice faded into the darkness as his body slumped against the cold wall. Anna's fading breath far away. Anna's fever climbed higher. Her small body shook violently as she coughed, her voice weak. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, whispering, "Papa, where are you?" Her breaths came shorter. Her little hands gripped the blanket tightly. Tears rolled down her cheeks, She closed her eyes and whispered one last word before sleep dragged her under. Papa. Her body grew still, her breath faint. Time was running out. Emily's desperate step pat the mansion. Emily could no longer wait. She had received a quiet nod from the receptionist earlier that day. The message was clear. There was one way into the basement without alerting the guards. Tonight, she would act. She slipped out of her room, her footsteps silent. She moved like a shadow through the hallways, her heart pounding in her chest. If her father caught her, the consequences would be unbearable. But if she did nothing, Samuel would die and Anna too. She whispered to herself, "Courage, Emily." For Samuel. For Anna, the secret aligned at the back entrance of the company building, Emily found the receptionist waiting nervously. The woman's hand shook as she handed Emily a small key. "This opens the old storage passage," she whispered. "It leads to the basement. But please, be careful. If the guards find you," Emily squeezed her hand. "Thank you. You are braver than you know." With the key hidden in her dress, Emily slipped into the shadows, her determination burning brighter than her fear. Samuel's collapse inside the basement. Samuel tried to sit up, but his body gave way. His head spun, his vision darkened. He whispered a final prayer. "Lord, if my life must end, let Anna live. Let her find kindness in this world." His body slumped, and his eyes closed. Darkness pulled him under. Emily's discovery moments later, Emily slipped into the basement chamber. Her candlelight flickered across the damp walls. Her eyes widened in horror. Samuel lay motionless on the floor. "Samuel," she cried, rushing to his side. She dropped to her knees, lifting his head gently. "No, no, please, not like this." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You cannot leave Anna. You cannot leave me." Samuel stirred faintly, his eyes fluttering open. His lips moved weakly. "Emily, Anna, I'm here," she whispered fiercely. "I won't let you go. Hold on." Mr. Gray appears, but before she could move further, a cold voice echoed through the chamber. "So, my own daughter betrays me again." Emily froze. The candlelight revealed Alexander Gray standing at the doorway, his eyes blazing like fire. Behind him, guards waited silently. "Father?" Emily whispered, her body trembling. Mr. Gray stepped forward, his voice like thunder. "You dare sneak into my building? You dare free this man? Do you understand what you are doing?" Emily rose to her feet, her tears shining, but her voice steady. "Yes, Father. I am saving a life. Something you refuse to do." Mr. Gray's face hardened. "You shame me. You betray me." "No," Emily said firmly. "I honor what is right. You are the one who shames yourself." The breaking point for a long moment. Father and daughter faced each other, fire against fire. Then Samuel's weak cough broke the silence. His voice rasped, "Please, don't fight. Anna needs me." Emily knelt beside him again, her hands shaking. "Father, if you still have any heart left, look at him. He is a father, just like you. Would you want me to suffer the way his daughter suffers? Would you want me to cry the way Anna cries?" Mr. Gray's jaw tightened. He turned his face away. But Emily's words pierced deeper than any sword. The truth revealed. Emily's voice grew louder, filled with passion. "All your wealth? All your power? What is it worth if you destroy lives? What is it worth if your own daughter cannot respect you? Look at him, Father. He has nothing, and yet he has something you will never have. Love. Love for his child. Love that no chains can break." Her words hung in the air. The guards shifted uncomfortably, their eyes flickering with unease. Mr. Gray's hands clenched into fists. His empire had been built on fear and control. But now his own daughter was tearing down the walls around his heart, the choice at last. Mr. Gray's voice came, low and rough. "If I free him, he will return to his sick child. He will live, and you. You will never forgive me if I let him die." Emily's tears fell as she nodded. "Yes, Father. Do what is right. For once, Silence stretched. Then slowly, Alexander Gray raised his hand. "Release him," the guards gasped. One of them whispered, "Sir, release him." Mr. Gray thundered. The keys jingled as the cell door swung open. Samuel collapsed into Emily's arms, too weak to walk. Emily looked up at her father, her voice breaking. "Thank you." Mr. Gray turned away, his face unreadable. "Do not thank me. This changes nothing. Go. Take him. Save your precious janitor." But deep inside, something in him had shifted, though he would never admit it. The race against time with the guards' help. Emily carried Samuel out of the basement. They rushed through the night, hurrying to the small apartment where Anna lay. When they arrived, Emily's heart broke at the sight. The little girl lay still, her face pale, her body burning with fever. "Anna." Samuel cried weakly, trying to reach her. The child's eyes fluttered open. "Papa, you came." "Yes, my little one," he whispered, holding her hand. "I will never leave you again." Emily rushed to prepare cool cloths, food, and medicine she had brought with her. She worked through the night, refusing to rest, refusing to let Anna slip away. Dawn of hope by morning, Anna's fever began to break. Her breathing grew steadier. Her small hand clung tightly to her father's. Samuel wept with relief, pressing his forehead against hers. "You are safe, my little one. You are safe." Emily sat nearby, exhausted but smiling. She had fought against her father's empire, risked everything, and tonight, she had won. Mr. Gray, alone back at the mansion, Alexander Gray stood by his window, staring out at the rising sun. His empire still stood. His wealth still flowed, but his heart was unsettled. His daughter's defiance echoed in his ears. Her words about love, mercy, and respect cut deeper than any business rival ever could. For the first time in years, the great billionaire wondered if he had built his life on the wrong foundation. He whispered softly into the empty room, "Am I the one who is poor?" The silence gave him no answer. The new beginning in the small apartment. Samuel held Anna in his arms, his eyes filled with gratitude. Emily sat beside them, her heart full of quiet joy. They had survived the storm. The future was uncertain, and Mr. Gray's shadow still loomed over their lives. But for now, love had triumphed over fear, and for the first time, the billionaire's daughter, the poor janitor, and his fragile child shared something that no wealth could ever buy: hope.